We're live. Off you go.
Hello, hello, yes, and welcome to the Irish Abroad Show once again back on this Sunday evening with myself, Gerard Browne, as we will bring you a recap on how all the Irish players fared across the channel and across the sea over the weekend. As always, I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Nealon and two new recruits here to the channel on Irish Football Fan TV. So a big welcome to Adam Courtney and to Ryan Brennan. Lads, baptism of fire thrown straight in here on a Sunday evening, but yeah, it's great to welcome you on board to the channel.
Yeah, it's great to be
Hi
here.
there, yeah.
Thanks for having us on, lads.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here as well. Thanks so much. And looking forward to talking about some Irish players abroad.
Yeah, the boys also as well. Adam is you said you're a Bows fan and Ryan says Shamrock Rovers fan. So all four Dublin of the main Dublin clubs are represented here. Apologies to any UCD fans if you're listening. Just don't have any UCD fans. It's pretty much straight as forward as that. But we might as well dive straight into it. The Premier League is always the main agenda. Plenty of Irish involvement over the weekend. Once again, there's only one place really to start. That's with Evan Ferguson and his performance with Brighton. This was the live 3:00 game on Premier Sports yesterday as a Liverpool fan as well. So I obviously was keenly interested to tune into this game despite Liverpool's recent woes, and that very much continued. A comprehensive and well-deserved 3-0 victory for Brighton in this game. It was kind of one of those, when I watched it live at the time, I kind of thought, particularly in the first half, Ferguson kind of had a quiet enough game. He had one good chance just before half-time, but he kind of really hit it straight at Alisson Becker, never really kind of got much power behind it, but came into a bit more in the second half, obviously with that assist for Sonny March for his second and Brighton's second goal, and then obviously was taken off not long after that, but overall in general still to grab an assist against Liverpool despite the form that they're in is no mean feat at all, and that brings him to 2 goals and 2 assists in 3 Premier League appearances for him. Adam, you were saying there off air as well, you watched the game live with me. It was actually one of those when I watched it back on Match of the Day, just even for the snippets there, he was actually a little bit more involved in the first half than I would have given credit for. He very, very good at pressing, had a couple of nice moments. Like I said, a beautiful, beautiful pass into Sonny March for that second goal.
Yeah, I found it really, really impressive, the fact that he's, only recently turned 18, and, the composure he showed to get his head up in that moment, to pick out that pass for Solly March. Like, it was weighted perfectly in behind the Liverpool defence. And, I'm really impressed with him. He looks like a real prospect for Ireland at the moment. Obviously, we're kind of crying out at the moment for, young Irish players, the likes of Bazunu and Collins doing well, and a few others. But, especially up front, we're really kind of looking for, the next Robbie Keane, as everyone says. Everyone thinks every Irish player who comes through is the next Robbie Keane. But yeah, as you said, to have like goals and assists against top teams, came on New Year's Eve against Arsenal, really kind of dominated Saliba for that goal and showed great composure. That's one thing I really, really admire about him, that he always kind of seems to keep a cool head in the kind of moments where a lot of players would tend to panic. And at that age, he's shown a lot of potential. And like I've seen a stat as well that he's the youngest player ever to get to score in 2 consecutive games since Makeda in 2009. So it's really, really, really excited to see how he turns out.
Yeah, Ryan, you were saying you only just got the chance to watch the highlights of this kind of game, but I know it's very, very early days. We don't want to go heaping too much pressure on a lad that's still only a teenager, still only 18 years of age. But as I mentioned there, that's 4 goal contributions across 3 games for now. Are you kind of surprised that, okay, early doors, health warning, but you're kind of surprised at how well he's adapted to life in the Premier League kind of so quickly so far?
Yeah, it's taken me by surprise. I've probably taken a lot of the country by surprise. It's not even, normally when you see these players breaking through, it might be games against kind of smaller teams that are, down the table, that maybe, the likes of your Bournemouth, West Brom, stuff like that. But to see him coming through and he's putting in these performances against, high-flying Arsenal, who are top of the league, and I know, as you said, Liverpool are out of form, but he's still coming up against these internationals, the likes of Gomez, Matip, and Andrew Robertson, and he's putting in the shift. And for Arsenal, Saliba, who was recently, he was out missing for the World Cup mainly, but no, I think he's been very solid so far for Brighton. I hope it's not too much pressure on him while it's so young. I think, what we don't want to see is him kind of fizz out a little bit now if the pressure does become too much. But I think the way he's going, I think Brighton have a good striker on their hands, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were looking to maybe loan him out in the summer and maybe try get someone in who's a bit older and has a bit more experience in the summer, and then it wouldn't maybe be too bad. But I think the main thing is to see how he goes for the rest of the season, and sure, if he can do it for the rest of the season, sure, I think he'll probably cement his place as the number one striker.
Yeah, I think it helps as well. He's in a team that's just taking on really, really nicely. Brighton obviously had a little bit of a wobble after Graham Potter left, obviously change over manager, but like I was very, very impressed with general yesterday. And like I said, 3-0 flattered Liverpool. They could have won that game by 5 or 6. They should have been in front by half time, but they made their dominance count in the second half. And as a Liverpool fan, that's enough to talk about that game. Let's move on to another team in Merseyside that's also struggling. This can bring in Paul. Sorry, Paul. But Seamus Coleman captained Everton, as was another day to forget for Frank Lampard's charges. They threw away a 1-0 half-time lead to lose 2-1 to Southampton. James Ward-Prowse brace doing the damage there for the Saints, who Gavin Bazunu was once again in the goals. But good rating for Seamus Coleman from the Liverpool Echo on this game. Getting a 7 out of 10 rating, saying the Everton captain rolled back the years in the first half with an energetic and attack-minded display. And although he was pinned back more after the break, he continued to lead by example before making way for Gordon. Bazunu was also given a 7 out of 10 rating by Hampshire Live, held on to early sitters put towards him by Everton, and was let down by teammates for the opener as they allowed a free header on the ball. Stayed composed throughout and claimed several crosses that easily could have troubled him earlier in the season. He did miss one, though, I noticed in the second half from the highlights I've seen the match today. But for a man who's seen the entire game, that was Paul. Obviously, Paul, another day to forget for Everton. It's very much clear now they are going to be in another relegation battle for the second season running. But from an Irish point of view, what did you take away from Coleman and Bazunu's performances yesterday?
I thought when Coleman went off, we lacked leadership on the pitch. I thought he was very good. It was the first half. He was very good. Second half, his energy went out a little bit, but naturally at the age he's at now, that will happen, and he's playing probably more games than he probably would have expected again because Nathan Patterson's out injured. So obviously Coleman's kind of coming in, and he's not the starter he was like last season. He started a lot of games because we didn't have a replacement for Patterson at right full or right wing back, if you rather, and he was playing a lot more. I think that a lot of people had complaints over that because some games he looked brilliant and some games he didn't look as sharp, and it was kind of like that again. As I think he was rightfully substituted just because his energy levels dropped, but when he went off, then that's when Southampton really started to kind of take control of the game. And Bazunu, the opposite end, thought he was really good. He looked a bit nervous in the first half when Everton were dominating and Everton were on the lead, but then gradually grew into the game and came for a lot of crosses, punched a lot of balls away to stop. Everton have quite a, I know they scored from Onana scored, but they've quite a bit of height in terms of for an opposition threat in Bazunu's box. But Bazunu came out and he was taking ball and man a lot of the time, which you want to see from your goalkeeper. He was brave, and he definitely helped Southampton get the win. So a great result for him, and it was something I was praying wouldn't happen. I was hoping Bazunu would have a good game, but Everton would still win. Obviously they didn't, and very, very disappointed and annoyed about that, but there's nothing I can do to affect that. So but from the Irish point of view, the lads were good. Just one thing that I didn't get to speak about is just Evan Ferguson. I'm not sure if you're going to be going into it later on, but I think if he's continuing in the form he's playing in at the moment, I mean, he's starting ahead of Trossard, who's a Belgian international, and De Zerbi seems to be putting so much faith and trust in him as a Premier League player now that I think he has to be a starter in the games in March. Definitely in the squad, but if he continues in the form he's playing against the likes of Everton, Arsenal, scoring goals against them, and then being a handful for Liverpool and getting an assist against Liverpool and mixing it with the best players in the league, I think he's more than capable of moving in international level and playing for our national team and leading the line. Would I like to see him lead the line on his own? Probably not, but and a front two of Obafemi and Ferguson would definitely have me licking my lips ahead of the qualifiers.
Yeah, it might even give France something to think about, but like I said, a long way still to go to that game. at the end of March. But yeah, I think if you were to pick an Ireland team to play in the morning to play France on current form, I think it'd be hard to leave Ferguson out of that team. And just also as well in Gavin Bazzuno, that win yesterday, Southampton caps off a very, very good week for him. Was also obviously between the posts when they bet Man City 2-0 in the League Cup quarter final on Wednesday, keeping a clean sheet. And he also won the award for the Save of the Month for December as well. So congratulations there to Gavin, and hopefully couple of more awards to come at the top level of English domestic football. Just two more things to go through from the weekend in the Premier League. Speaking of clean sheets, Nathan Collins helped Wolves keep their first clean sheet since mid-October as they overcame fellow relegation rivals West Ham 1-0. They've actually now moved out of the bottom three. The Shropshire Star gave the centre-back 7 out of 10 rating, saying Collins had an excellent first half. He did well in the second too, but made a couple of errors that almost cost Wolves, but thankfully they didn't. And the only other bit as well was from today's North London derby between Tottenham and Arsenal. Matt Doherty played 70 minutes in that game, as Arsenal completed a league double over Spurs, winning that game 2-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to extend their lead to 8 points at the top of the table. I didn't see that game. I just listened to most of it on News Talk. I was driving my way back down from Roscommon to Tipperary. So that's just before we wrap up on the Premier League. Is there anything that you want to add there from Nathan Collins or Matt Doherty over the weekend? Or just in general even?
I think from myself, I think it's great to see Matt Doherty coming more or less back into form. I think not too long ago, Antonio Conte was coming out to say that he's kind of, he's seen him in better form and he was dropping him for kind of each game. And now you can see he's kind of rebuilt the trust in him. I think Matt Doherty is more than kind of cemented his place in the Ireland team for the games in March. I think he's doing really well. So it's just good to see him kind of rekindle that form there and find his feet again in the Premier League, especially for Spurs who are competing for Champions League.
Yeah, for me with Nathan Collins, I think it's really exciting to see such a young player in such a key position, obviously for Wolves. Like I thought it was really impressive in the summer that Wolves decided to get rid of Cody to go from a back five to a back four, and they trusted Collins in that position. It shows the quality that he has, and obviously he did great at Stoke and at Burnley in the 2 moves previously. But the size of him, it's not just to do with his physicality, the fact that he's so good and that he's able to cut at a Premier League level. It's actually the way he plays out at the back, and I really like him as a centre back. I could really see him at a Champions League club in the next few years, which is something you haven't said of many Irish players in the last 10 or so years. But I genuinely think he has the potential to play for a top team, and I'm really excited to see him, especially for Ireland. He's shown kind of leadership qualities at the young age that he is. So he's been really good for Wolves this season, and I can only see him improving from here on out.
Yeah, we are also going live as well here, so don't be shy to get your comments in, and anything you will drop in, we will no doubt discuss and talk about it. Paul, has there been much thrown away in terms of comments over the last 15 minutes or so?
No, just Jack came in and said that it would be interesting to see what happens now that Danny Welbeck is back. I know he scored the third goal yesterday.
Yeah, I suppose probably to look at it, I know it's kind of maybe a bit of a cruel thing to say, but I suppose if you look at it from a positive kind of point of view from Ferguson, Danny Welbeck kind of throughout the course of his career always kind of seems to be never too far away from injury, so you kind of feel that following that projection he might get a consistent run. But yeah, like I said, he came on yesterday, took that third goal really, really well. Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you're a Liverpool fan, you would say it was absolutely shambolic defending, but at the end of the day, still showed good composure. Yeah, so we'll be interested to see what happens there with Evan Ferguson and with Brighton. We'll move on down to the Championship because, as always, there's so much to get through here. I'll just give you kind of a rundown of what kind of happened, and we might just pick out 3 or 4 talking points from it from the weekend. So Chinozia Benny played the full 90 minutes. Struggling Rotherham caused a big, I wouldn't say, well, it probably was a big upset, yeah, because they bet promotion chasing Blackburn Rovers 4-0 at home. Peter Chiozzo came on as a late substitute for Rotherham in that game. That was his 7th appearance of the season, whereas former postman Georgie Kelly is out injured at the moment for Rotherham. Ryan Manning got an assist. That's now 7 goal involvements for him this season in Swansea City's 3-1 win over Sunderland. Didn't see the goal, but I was listening to it on Soccer Side. It was meant to be an absolutely delightful cross in there. So a big win for Swansea. Again, though a bit of an upset because Sunderland have been going brilliant this season. And he came in for strong praise from Wales Online. He actually got their man of the match as well in that game, saying another top shift once again from him. So good to see. Definitely food for thought for Stephen Kenny ahead of March. Callum Dowder scored for Cardiff, while Will Keane scored for Wigan as the respective sides played out a 1-1 draw. O'Dowda is now on 3 goals this season, while Keane is now up to double figures. That was his 10th this season. Callum Robinson, Wigan, and James McLean, or Callum Robinson, Cardiff, and James McLean, Wigan, also both featured in this game. And it was a good day for the Irish people by the Wales Online publication, because O'Dowda was given their man of the match in that game as well. CJ Hamilton started for Blackpool, while Andy Lyons for the last 9 minutes as their league woes continued with a 2-0 defeat away to Watford. John Egan picked up a yellow card, but it was still another day to remember for him and Sheffield United as the Blades bet Stoke City 3-1. They are now 11 points ahead of third place Watford, so they're looking good for a return to the Premier League. Jeff Hendrick scored 2 goals for Reading as they went 2-0 up at half time against QPR, but threw away that lead to end up drawing that game 2-2. It's now 3 goals this season for Hendrick. Shane Long came on the 15th minute of that game and then was replaced with 15 minutes to go, while Jimmy Dunn played the entire game for QPR. Berkshire Live giving Hendrick a 8 out of 10 rating there and giving Long a 7 out of 10 rating. So good praise there for the Irish players on a frustration afternoon, you would say, for Reading. Andrew Omabamdele completed 90 minutes as Norwich won for the first time in 6 games in all competition, hammering Preston North End 4-0 away from home. Adam Ida came on that game also for Norwich City. As for Preston, Alan Brown started while Robbie Brady and Troy Parrott came off the bench. Most encouraging to see from the Irish point of view, obviously Robbie Brady made his return from injury last week. That game now also marked Troy Parrott's return from injury. It's the first time he's played since the 8th of October. He got 19 minutes under his belt yesterday, so hopefully more minutes for him to come over the next couple of weeks. Dan McNamara was on the losing side for Millwall as they lost to fellow playoff rivals Middlesbrough 1-0 away. No Darrell Lennon in that game for Middlesbrough. He's out injured at the moment. Jason Malumbi continued his brilliant season, and particularly in recent weeks, as he scored his first goal of the season for West Brom as they completed a dramatic comeback coming from 2-0 down to win 3-2 away to Luton Town. Darragh O'Shea also started this game for the Albion, while Louis Watson came on for Luton, and both Malumbi and O'Shea came in for strong praise from Burning Live, with both getting 8 out of 10 ratings. So the two of them have really been key to West Brom's revival of the last couple of weeks. Cyrus Christie 84 minutes, Sean McLaughlin 58 minutes, and Aaron Connolly 24 minutes, all played in Hull City's 1-1 draw at home to Huddersfield. Josh Cullen and Burnley continued their march to the Premier League with a 1-0 win at home to Coventry City. They're now 16 points clear of third place Watford, so I think barring a major collapse they will be bouncing straight back up at the first time of asking. And Mark Sykes got a brace in Bristol City's 4-2 win at home to Birmingham City, his first goals of the season. Max O'Leary was also on goals for Bristol City in this game, while Scott Hogan and Kevin Long both started for Birmingham, that being Kevin Long's debut. And then once again, like the other Irish players who had got involved in the score sheet, a strong player rating for Mark Sykes, an 8 out of 10 rating from Bristol Live. So Paul, I'll come to you first. A lot to get through, as we always know with the championship, because we've such a volume of players involved. From what I went through there, what's the thing that kind of stood out to you the most, or was the most pleasing for you?
Happy for Hendrick, because he just gets non-stop abuse. Might be a turning point for him, I don't know. Obviously he was at QPR last year on loan, and he would have liked them 2 goals. I don't know how the ending at QPR was, but he seemed to enjoy the 2 goals anyway. He scored an absolute cracker as well, very reminiscent of a Matt Holland Cameroon type goal from the 2002 World Cup, if you can remember that far back. Some of you are quite young, some of you are not.
I can.
Yeah, well, there you go. But yeah, I think with Hendrick, it's a case of he needs to be coming in to the next set of qualifiers in form if he wants any chance of getting near the team. With Malumbi doing so well and scoring and helping West Brom get another win under their belt. Josh Cullen's place is, I think, is cemented, so I think it's that other spot where Malumbi plays, and if Joe Hodge will play, or will Jason Knight play, so it's good to see all these midfielders are all in form. Heron scoring in League One, and I know you'll probably come to that, but I think his day is past now. But it's good to see our midfielders are all kind of adding goals, and then you've got Joe Hodge to add to the equation. Hopefully he'll be added in March as well if he can keep playing at Premier League level. So I think it only bodes well. And another thing that's probably gone under the radar, and I know Ryan had spoken earlier about Matt Doherty coming into form, but Mark Sykes has been playing right wing back for Bristol, and I know we've got O'Dowda, who he likes on the left as well. But all these players are actually in form now, scoring goals, and they're coming into those positions. Matt Doherty's 31 tomorrow, I heard on Sky Sports earlier. He's not getting any younger. As a wing back, Seamus Coleman started kind of declining in terms of his legs around 32. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Doherty over the next kind of a year or two. But can Mark Sykes maybe make that position his own? He showed up in two positions that Matt Doherty would have been famously known for in his Wolves days, scoring 2 goals over the weekend. So it's just it's a good, I suppose, thing to think about, is to have him as another option there. He's young, he's quick, and he's calm and composed in the box. So yeah, all good round. Great to see Omar Bamidele back and getting a clean sheet as well. I'd like to see him get a good run of games now coming into March, and I imagine that if he is fit, he'll start.
Adam, one thing that kind of stood out for me from the weekend, not that he got an assist, he didn't kind of stand as much as players to score, but was Ryan Manning. And it kind of stand out because he's consistently been playing well, not just this season, but you go back to last season as well with Swansea. But for some reason, he kind of struggles to kind of get into the squad, never mind even kind of be knocking on the door of a starting place, which you kind of feel he should be. I know maybe on previous occasions when he's played for Ireland, he looked like maybe he struggled a bit in international football, but surely on the current form he's going, he must be thinking himself, there's not an awful lot more that I can kind of do to get in on this team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Obviously, over the last 2 years, I think James McLean has shown some real consistency on that left-hand side under Stephen Kenny. So I think he's kind of held his place down well there. But then, as you said, there's, over the last few years, there's been Enda Stevens as well, who's played well. But I think definitely, with James McLean getting into his 30s now, there's definitely a space opening up on that left-hand side. And as you said, like, plenty of goals and assists this season for Ryan Manning at Swansea. He's having a great season in the Championship. So you could kind of think that, he's got the legs, the pace, and he's actually, it's not the kind of thing that you'd stand out straight away, but he's actually very athletic, I think, especially when he's playing as a wing back. It's something that you really need to do to get up and down the pitch. So yeah, he'd be someone I'd like to see get games over the next kind of few games. Obviously against France, you'd kind of think Stephen Kenny will kind of revert to type with maybe James McLean playing there. Also Robbie Brady's played there as well. But I'd definitely like to see Ryan Manning get more involved and at least be in the squad.
Yeah, I think probably the Latvia game is probably more realistic, probably of a chance, as you say. Like maybe the France game might be just a little bit too much because of his inexperience, but I definitely think the Latvia game could be a right good chance for him to kind of showcase what he could be about going further down the campaign. Ryan, just also looking elsewhere in the championship as well, I wouldn't say maybe 2 forgotten men of Irish football, but 2 men that maybe have kind of gone quiet over the last kind of while, probably because they've been out of sight a little bit, is Aaron Connolly and Troy Parrott. Obviously Troy's been injured, so you can't really do much about that the last couple of weeks, but brilliant to see him back on the field for Preston, even was only for 19-20 minutes yesterday. Hopefully that's getting the regular starts again and won't be too far away. And for Aaron Connolly, it's the second week in a row he's come off the bench since joining from Hull. Obviously again, no kind of goal, but I suppose after again a long layoff for him, I don't think he's played since the 21s playoff back in September. It's just good for him to kind of get in regular football again back under his belt.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there too. I think when you look at these players, and sometimes it's easy to forget they're so young, and when that pressure gets applied so early, that you kind of forget that these players are so young and they're kind of at the development stage of their career. Especially, I think, in Troy Parrott's case, because he got the move to Tottenham, we kind of all expected him just to be our first striker and lead the line, and that would be it. Then we'll ride off into the sunset. But obviously, it's been different there, and we've seen the likes of Obafemi, now Ferguson breaking through. That I think now Parrott, now is his time to just break back in and show kind of. I'm sure he'll have March in his mind when he's coming on these substitute appearances. And that's for Aaron Connolly. We all hope to see kind of him kind of rebuild up his career. And obviously he's gotten that long move to Hull now, and I think that can really be a benefit to him. And I think Hull's a good standard to go to. It's not I think if he was going lower, I don't think we would have been kind of hoping. I think now that he's gotten him out the hole, I think he should do well. He's a good, talented winger. I think the manager just needs to get the best out of him. And if they do, there's no reason why. I think maybe March will be too soon for the likes of Aaron Connolly. But we'll have 6 or more qualifiers after March. I think 7 more after that. There's no reason why he shouldn't be competing for them places.
Yeah, definitely. Again, more food for thought for Stephen Kane with more players now getting a little bit more action on the belt, and hopefully as well, the transfer situation surrounding Michael Femi will get solved soon as well. I think it's looked like he is going to move to Burnley, so hopefully he'll get back on the playing pitch on a regular basis as well. Paul, anything else you want to touch on there from the Championship? Obviously, we mentioned Callum Dowda scored, Will Keane, Jason Malumbi, we touched off and off there, is probably in the form of his life at the moment. And also I can see there as well from the YouTube channel, there is quite a lot of comments coming in now as well.
I'll check the comments, sorry. It just says Liverpool are in crisis. They're only 7 points away from top 4. Danny Welbeck was already
10 now.
Then it just says Danny Welbeck was already back and was on the bench and Ferguson started. And this is Jack says he was only back. That was his first game back. Simon says anyone planning Greece away in June, and that's all the comments so far. So again, the kind of stuff we've already spoken about. Just on Obafemi, yeah, great if he joins Burnley and gets back up to the Premier League. Then we have another player, Irish player playing in the Premier League. Darrell Costello, I know he went to Bradford, probably to take Tyreek Wright's place at Bradford there for the rest of the season. So hopefully his loan move goes well, and maybe Vincent Kompany might take a chance on him next year. Hopefully he develops at Bradford. But Obafemi, I mean, if the talks are as true as they say and he's gone for 3 million, that's an absolute steal for an international striker. But I think Swansea are at the stage where they would just rather get him off the books. But there is a lot of talk that if Obafemi goes out, that Ogbene would go in at Swansea. So a bit of an Irish transfer merry-go-round, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it'd be a good move actually for Obafemi. I know Ogbene is how I meant to say as well. I know he'd still be staying in the Championship, but Swansea are probably that little bit more kind of a stable club. You look at Rotherham, there's probably a good chance they will stay up this season, but you definitely feel it's going to be touch and go between now and the end of the season. Where you feel like Swansea probably slightly below par with the performance this season. You think they should be a little bit more up in the playoff picture, but that mid third of the Championship is so highly congested. They can get on a bit of a run after a big win like that away to Sunderland yesterday. Who knows what could kind of happen? And just actually there on the Liverpool points, well, I think we're actually now 10 points off top 4 after Newcastle's win today. So amazing how quickly football can turn. If we were talking 2 weeks ago, even though they were so lucky to beat Leicester, I was still fully confident to get top 4. It's amazing what 2 bad defeats and a host of results going against you can do you for that top 4 race. But this is Irish football matters, not Liverpool, so we'll move on. On to League One, just 3 bits of information to bring you from Irish players involved in action in terms of goal scoring contributions over the weekend. Finn Ayaz, have I got his surname right there, Paul? Azaz, sorry, got an assist for Plymouth for their injury time equaliser in their top of the table clash away to Ipswich. They drew that game 1-1, so that could be a massive moment for Plymouth as they look to return to the second tier of English football. They've kind of been through the doldrums the last couple of years, so going very well, as are Ipswich as well. It's good to see them up there fighting the top of League One. Another team as well that are climbing up to the top of League One, or certainly in terms of getting into the playoffs, are Derby County. They're on a great run of form at the moment. Loads of Irish contributions there week in, week out. And this week was the turn of Conor Hurahan, his 5th goal of the season, as they won 3-2 away to Cheltenham. And ex-Derry City player Owen Toll was on the score sheet for Bolton in their comprehensive 3-0 win over Portsmouth. Just run through then from Scotland, because there's a bit to bring you there from the Scottish Premiership, and there was a League Cup semi-final weekend as well. So in the Scottish Premiership, Aidan McGeady played 84 minutes and Jake Doyle-Hayes played 27 minutes for Hibs, while Jimmy McGrath played 8 minutes for Dundee United, as their respective sides played out a very entertaining game, finishing 2-2. Ross Tierney came on for the last 26 minutes in Motherwell's 1-1 draw against Ross County. Not a great result for Motherwell there. They've had a really, really poor season so far. Kind of all started with that defeat against Sligo and hasn't really improved since. And then in the Scottish League, in Scottish Premiership, Graham Carey started for St Johnstone as they were comprehensively beaten 4-2 at home by Livingston. They were actually 3-0 down that game, so they got a couple of goals back in the second half to make that look somewhat respectful. And in the Scottish League Cup semi-finals. For the second week in a row, Alan Power and Kilmarnock faced Celtic, and for the second week in a row, they lost by the same scoreline, 2-0 at Hampden Park yesterday evening. And then today, disappointment for Liam Scales and Johnny Hayes as Aberdeen blew a 1-0 half-time lead to eventually lose 2-1 to Rangers after extra time. So it will be the classic meeting of Celtic versus Rangers in the Scottish League Cup final in a couple of weeks' time. And then just one bit of information from the Scottish Championship. Former under-21 international Sean McGinty scored for Ayr in their 2-2 draw against Arbroath. Bits of bobs to get through there from League One and Scotland. I don't know who kind of wants to take over there, but from what I've went through there, is there any bit of information that really grabbed someone's attention?
Yeah, for me, I thought it was really interesting with Ross Kearney there, obviously, as you're saying, played 26 minutes for Motherwell. Obviously, as a Bows fan, it's really I'm really happy to see him, getting so much minutes in the Scottish Premiership. I know a lot of people at the time when he left Bows were kind of thinking, is he going to be good enough to kind of progress into the Scottish Premiership? It's a big kind of jump in standard. But, from the times I've watched him playing with the under-21s and obviously in Bows live, he's an unbelievable player. He's so technically gifted, and I'm really happy to see him doing so well. And I'm not surprised that he's getting so many minutes because he's got a really good attitude as well. I'm really happy to see him do so well because he's really made that step up and hasn't looked out of place at all at such a high standard in Scotland.
Anyone else want to jump in there?
I think for myself, it was good to see Conor Hourihane back on the score sheet. I think he's always a midfielder. I think that of what could have been for Ireland, and he could have been kind of really playing first team. Well, playing for the first team a lot through each qualifier campaign, or whether it be the Euros or World Cup. So it's good to see that he is back on the score sheet, even if it doesn't lead to anything for March or maybe for the qualifiers. I think at least goals like that, and as it was his fifth goal, might just throw his name somewhat on the hat there.
I think
just even in...
Sorry, go on.
Go on, Paul, sorry. No, I was just going to say, I think even just in general, like the stature of a club that Derby County are, I know they've obviously had their financial issues over the last 3 or 4 years, but it's good to see them, after a bit of an up and down start to League One, that they are getting back up there. I think there's too much of a gap to make up in terms of the automatic promotion spots. It'd be great if they could, via the playoffs, get back up to the Championship. But like I said, it's such a massive Irish contribution there. With Jason Knight, I know he's kind of had a difficult season, but he's definitely got back going again after injury troubles over the last kind of couple of weeks. Conor Hourihane chipping away every now and then. Dave McGoldrick, James Collins, they've had their moments in Aaron Cashin as well. We definitely know, with his performances with Derby in the Championship in recent seasons, and with Ireland 21s, is definitely a player for the future as well.
Was that aimed at anyone in particular?
No, just making a waffling off a random point of mine there. Sorry, Paul.
No, I thought you wanted someone to kind of follow up on it. That's all. I just think with the Finn Azaz, I think he's a player to watch out for, and obviously they're top the league, they're League One, and they're flying, and now Tyreek Wright's going to be in there for the rest of the season. Or no, he signed permanently even, sorry. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they link up. They've obviously played together at the Ireland Under-21s, and I think if they both do well, I think Azaz will go on to do bigger and better things. He looks like a really fine player. I think he was either injured earlier on the season or suspended, but he's been out for a little bit, and because he was flying just before that, and then he was scoring crackers for fun, and now he's obviously getting back to a level, and he'll hopefully help Plymouth win the league and become League One champions. But yeah, I like Derby obviously with the Irish players that they have there between Cashin, McGoldrick, Collins, Knight and Hourihane. I think it's good seeing them doing well, and obviously if they can, I'd like to see them then get promoted as well. But nothing really else on that. I don't think there's too much to talk about. I think the main stuff that's happened this week has been in the Premier League and the Championship.
Yeah, which is good to see that there's an increase in involvement of Irish players in the Premiership. Like I said, we look at the two teams that are top and flying in the Championship that, barring collapses, look like they're going to steal automatic promotion. It's hopefully going to increase the number of Irish players in the Premier League next season with John Egan, Enda Stevens, Kieran Clark at Sheffield United, James Josh Collin at Burnley. Obviously, we do have Irish players, the likes of Mark Travers, Gavin Bazunu, Nathan Collins, Seamus Coleman. They're all going to be in a massive relegation battle between now and the end of the season. But hopefully, maybe they can all survive, and it's the likes of Nottingham Forest or a Leicester or a West Ham. It would particularly be great to see West Ham go down with a certain individual involved in their team. And just even then as well on Finn as well. I've only quickly catch glimpses of him in the 21s in that playoff against Israel. But yeah, I agree with you. He looks like from the glimpse we've seen there, if he can kick on from that potential, I think he could be someone who could go on to have a very good career. But I think we'll wrap it up there because we're going for about nearly 40 minutes. As I said, I think we've said it all now at this stage. Just like to thank Paul, as always, for joining me. And well done on a very, very solid showing on a debut for Adam and for Ryan there as well. Two lads who have definitely seen a lot more on the channel over the coming months this year.
Jay, just one comment before we go. Jack just says he'd like to see Kenny switch to a back four for Latvia. Would suit us better, and we could accommodate an extra midfielder from the abundance we have right now. If he wants to talk about that just before we go. We're 2 or 3 more minutes.
Look, I suppose just leave this more to that. I don't really have much to kind of say, but I just don't see what the point maybe will be again experimenting with formation and stuff like that. I know it's a chance to that's what friendlies are for, but at this stage now, we're over 2 years into Stephen Kenny. We're just about to start a crucial campaign. I know it's going to be a very difficult campaign where, barring a miracle, I won't say barring a miracle, but barring a big slice of favour, we probably won't qualify. So I don't know kind of about that. Like I could see maybe where he's coming from, as I said, like to accommodate the balance and stuff like that. But at this stage, like you kind of just have to kind of stick with what we've been going with over the last kind of while. There's no more point in terms of chopping and changing in terms of trying out players or formations for me.
Yeah, for me overall, I think I kind of agree. I think that it's probably best off to stick with a back five. Stephen Kenny's been kind of sticking to that. He hasn't really ever gone to a back four, that I can think of anyway. He's kind of he kind of wants to build this Irish team on kind of solidity at the back, but then also it's probably going to be a 5-3-2, I'd assume. But hopefully, as we were saying, maybe Evan Ferguson up front with Obafemi. That'll be really interesting and exciting front two, and then probably a flat midfield three with a back five. As you said, the kind of players are kind of used to their roles. Like the wing backs. Like Matt Doherty, for instance, who's pretty much a guaranteed starter. He's never really starting in the back four for Tottenham. He's always starting in the back five. A lot of Ireland's players are actually accustomed to playing in the back five. Even like if you look at John Egan at Sheffield, they're a lot of the time playing a back five. And I think this is we're kind of used to it as a team. So maybe I know friendlies are for experimenting, but yeah, I'd probably stick to a back five just because realistically we're definitely not going to go into the game against France or Holland or Greece in a back four.
I think for myself, if the group wasn't so intense, I would say, yeah, that would be a good idea to go with a back four. Personally, I'd like to really see, rotation in friendlies, trying out different players and seeing how they progress in kind of senior games. But just because, as you were saying, not barring a miracle, but obviously a very intense group that we have with France and Netherlands leading, I think we just need to get solidified now with what our plan is and just nail it out as much as we can.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's any point in messing around with it. I think that's the formation you'll stick with. Then that's the way we play at the moment. Just the last comment was just retired FN says, any news on Obafemi to Burnley? And we spoke about that earlier. It's that it looks it's becoming more and more likely that he will sign for Burnley, probably by this week, I would say. Hopefully that's done and he can get in and start playing again as soon as possible. I think we'll wrap it up there, Jer. If there's anything you want to finish up with, fire it away.
I think it's all said and done for another week. We'll be back again next week. There'll be plenty more to get through because again, there's a full round of games in the Premier League and the English Football League, and obviously there's FA Cup third round replays as well this week, so there could be plenty of Irish involvement there as well. Like I just said earlier, just want to thank Paul and newbies Adam and Ryan for joining me this evening. And like I said, we'll be back again next Sunday evening to do it all over again.
Yeah, don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe, and if you're listening on podcast,